This is a Headgum podcast.
Like a street ad. What's your address?
Yeah. But I am curious.
Y'all, we got Kathleen
I'm wearing my
Hanna
yoga
on Gayotic.
pants. Sorry, that I slept in. So if this
As you
weird.
should, honey.
I slept in
I slept in this whole outfit, and then I was like, if I just tuck this in, it looks real.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna put a jacket on, and I was like, that'll make it too real.
You're just doing the tuck.
I was like, I just like the high.
What's your
waist
sleep
thing.
schedule?
What the fuck?
Yeah,
My
yeah.
sleep schedule
Good
is
question.
great. I go to sleep at like 10 or 11. I wake up at like 7 or 8.
That rocks.
Yeah, baby.
That's perfect.
Consistent?
But I have a kid, so
Okay.
I was wondering if you're a mom.
yeah.
Whoa.
How old?
He's 10.
Whoa, cool. That's a wild. I remember that's when I start around 8 to 10 is like when I start having real memories like from my childhood.
What was your first concert?
My first concert, well, my parents were jazz musicians, so I went to a lot of concerts as a kid. But I think my first concert that I remember, I'm from San Diego, and I went to see James Brown perform at the Del Mar Fair.
Wow.
Which was
Amazing.
insane. He was quite old, but still tearing it up.
Much
going
cooler
wild.
than most.
It was really wild. But that's the first I think that's right. Maybe my timeline's messed up. I'll ask my mom.
Do you remember your feelings though? Like, were you like screaming, or were you just like clapping and like blown away? Like, were you in awe? Were you like, were you like, I want to do this, or was it just like another thing because you'd been to so many concerts already?
I think it was I thought it was really cool and that they sounded really good. And that he was just, he was wearing he was like a 90-year-old man wearing a cape still and doing all the stuff. It was like doing all the classic James Brown stuff.
Imagine.
It was intense. It was intense. And the band, obviously, it's like, because he was so strict, as like, that's like the least of it.
Scary, yeah.
He was like probably a terrifying band leader. So the band really did sound great. But I think I loved music as a kid, and I really did, like, I felt that I had a kind of like special connection to some energy when I was playing music. But I think because it was within the context of this, like, my family all being jazz musicians, I was like classically trained on the piano. There was this kind of like, it was still very much in like a box of like, oh, this is what being a musician it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure that I wanted to do that.
Right.
I really wasn't sure that I wanted to do that until I was, 20.
Well, until like it's so funny.
Yeah,
We're like a
tied.
college band, and when we met in school, Josette and I were studying music, and Naomi was like studying African American studies, and we met in one of those classes, but
You're good, yeah.
their best friend was the one who like confided in me and told me at a certain point, like, Naomi like wants to be in music, and like you guys should be doing something together. But I came on the scene at USC like being like, my mission was like, I'm gonna start a Riot Grrrl band.
You were obsessed with La Tigre.
Yeah, it was like my North Star, like
She definitely was. I remember driving with you in my car,
and you're like,
no, she just couldn't. She just that's how it was anytime she was speaking. But I just remember you being obsessed.
yeah. I think it wasn't like, I don't know actually how I got turned on to your music, but it wasn't until like later. I think it maybe was, I spent a year in New York, like my freshman year of college, and then I transferred. And I think it was maybe like that year that somebody had showed me Riot Grrrl. And like in high school, it was, I forget how we like stumbled on Gravy Train, but that was also a little bit of a North
I like
Star.
that as the,
Totally.
the drug drug.
Yeah, I
thing.
know. As like the what
They're
is
the
that
best.
called?
The gateway drug.
Gateway drug, yeah.
Yeah, they're the fucking best. And I'm friends with Heather, and I
Oh.
actually did not even know that she was in Gravy
Oh my
Train until like last year. I was
That's
like,
kind of rad.
Heather's
what
awesome.
in the fuck? Yeah, I love her. But I feel like your music, like, completely, I was playing music from a young age, but I just didn't know like what was possible in terms of like what you could say into a microphone. And also I think it came at a time that was important for me in terms of like coming out. And and I'm so glad that the memoir is called Rebel Girl.
It almost totally wasn't. I was like, I
Really?
hated that title. I was like,
Well, it's probably
I don't want to call it that. I'm so sick of that.
I
you
know. I get it.
But like Deceptiboobs, nobody liked. So
To be honest, I love
fucking
that.
love
I was
that.
I know Deceptiboobs is way better to me,
That's
but
sick.
it's like,
it's that thing of like the thing that you become like known for. You have it's so normal to have like a fraught relationship with that because it makes you feel like, put into like
do
a
you
small
have that?
box.
What's your thing that you feel like you're like? Do you feel like you're trapped in a
We're
riot
in
girl
like a little
band or
moment
like
of that right
electronic
I feel
or
like barely.
that you're like
now.
electronic
I think Rebel
music
Girl
or...
is so much bigger than like anything that I don't know. I don't really identify with like having
Yeah,
had
maybe we just haven't
too much
We've also-
success.
gotten there yet.
our most successful thing was from our last album cycle, so it hasn't been
long enough
a
to
long
like,
enough
know.
time.
But I
also
actually
it's
will
like-
say with Silk, we have a song called Silk Chiffon, and it's like a very, like the pre-chorus in that song is like, life's so fun, and it's like I think people think sometimes that we just get very like tied with queer joy, and
Oh no! Fucking hate queer joy. Make it stop. Too much of it.
no, like it's
Stop
great.
it.
No, like it's
No,
fucking
it
great.
is, but
great.
you don't want to be like I'm the
Target.
clown who's like,
Yeah,
like
totally.
sometimes I feel like shit too.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like
no, I-
anything you're gonna have to
there's a
push
chapter in the
against.
book.
Yes. No, I
Yeah,
want to
please.
hear. Come
No,
on.
I wrote something in the book Rebel Girl on Echo.
Wait, it's on like Amazon Echo?
No, it's it's
Katie.
HarperCollins, but Echo's like the subsidiary.
Oh, okay.
You
thought it was on a
you can
device?
listen to
Yeah,
it
it's
on
on a
Amazon
device.
Echo?
It's just me going rebel, 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 girl, girl, girl. Although I did
I
have
obviously would love it.
I had a conversation with my mom when I was on drugs in high school one time.
What
It was like
drugs?
that. Oh, you don't want to know. It's so bad. I'd never taken mushrooms before, and I took
Okay.
way too many mushrooms, and then I freebase meth.
Whoa.
And then it was like, I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I'm staying at Tiffany's house. Like the whole thing was like fucking echoing. And
Some
then
people just have the music in them,
but all I heard back was no. And I was like, oh God. Oh shit. But I ended up that night I had a really bad trip and I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah,
well, the
sounds like
echoing
it.
sounds like it's the start of something.
It was
bad.
this, yeah. Then I got a ride on a motorcycle home, which was amazing, and I'll
Yeah,
never
sure.
forget how beautiful that ride was. But then once I hit my basement bedroom by myself, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm having a heart attack. I'm gonna die. I'm having a heart attack. And so I had this movie Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Whoa.
Totally.
And I would rewind the part where Bronson Pinchon comes in, like over and over. I did it for 8 hours all night long till I went to school, and I was
Totally.
like, "This
Oh my god.
Till you went
it's a
to
horrible
school.
scene." But it's like I watch it over and over, and I was like, "This is keeping me alive." Bronson
Yeah.
Pinchon keeping me
Oh
alive.
shit.
It's giving Josette in high school a little bit. To me.
I mean, I only
This is
did
my
whenever I did
imagination of
meth.
you.
It was an accident.
Right.
Oops. Like it wasn't on purpose.
In the book, there's a part where I was like in Le Tigre where I felt like, all these kids are coming up to me and like they want my autograph and they want a picture, but back then it was like disposable cameras that they
Yeah.
bought at the drugstore,
At least
Okay.
that's cool.
And it was like this, we usually didn't have dressing rooms and we would just be like out there for everybody and just so many people wanted
Whoa.
something. And it was like, we would get treated like total crap by that. Like Johanna Fateman, my bandmate,
Yeah.
was the treasurer. And so she had to deal with, getting the money at the end of the night. And so many times they'd be like, you broke the PA, so we're not going to pay you. And we're like, the DJ broke the PA. We had, this
Totally.
constant thing of like, fighting with the bouncers of like, being like, is JD a man or a woman? You have to tell me or we're not letting you in the door. And it's like,
Whoa.
Holy
just
fucking
constant
shit.
fucking shit backstage. And JD more than anybody,
Yeah.
as somebody who wasn't like, didn't look the traditional part
Right.
of woman to a lot of
Right.
people who just have like some kind of crazy blinders on, I guess. But it was just constant, getting shit from people backstage, people who worked at the venues and stuff like that. And then going out on stage and being like, hey, everybody, feminism's real.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
totally.
It started feeling like I was like a mascot, or like
Yeah.
I had a big mascot outfit on. And
100%.
it was like, it's like, look, this isn't my shtick. This is like deadly serious to me and totally real. And like mixing politics with joy is like all I'm about. But at the same time, it did start feeling like a lot of pressure to like create a space where people are having a good time.
Yeah.
You know, and there is a certain thing about being in a band where you're in the service industry.
Yeah.
And like, I fucking
100%.
hate, like the minimal times I've worked in the service industry, I cannot stand it.
Yeah.
Waiting table is like the worst
It's
nightmare
so
for me.
tough.
It's the worst. And so it's like when I started feeling that kind of waitress mentality of like, you have to take care of everybody in the audience. And, you know, we have to take care of our audience members even more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If like Billy Joe from Green Day or somebody like that stops a show because they see like a woman's getting jumped on in the front row or something, they're going to get rounds of applause for the rest of their fucking life. They're going to get a fucking parade of thank yous.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
When we do it, it's like, you
That's
know,
your job.
Bare
That's your
minimum.
fucking job.
it's the bare
expectation.
minimum of what is expected of us to like
Totally.
make sure like everybody's having a good time and everyone's safe and all this stuff. And it's like, I love trying to create a safer space and making sure there's non-binary bathrooms in every club we
course,
play.
yeah.
Like all the different things that you do as an artist to be like, I want the people I want to be here to feel like they can come. Because
Yeah.
also for myself,
Totally.
I don't want to be playing to an audience that I have nothing to do with or
Totally.
no camaraderie with or like whatever. But still, I don't know. I think I went off the subject again. I'm just
No.
like,
That makes so much sense. And I think we talk about it with a couple of other like people in bands who share a sort of similar like political inclination. And it is just like, this is not to complain at all about that responsibility that we have, but it is interesting that like some people have it and others don't. Like other artists just don't. And there is no expectation that, you know, some person is going to say something about the state of the world or whatever. But if, you know.
But I get the sense with you that it's like you couldn't
just
really do it any other way. Like, you know, I hear what you're saying. Like, in
certain
a way,
things
we're held to a
different standard. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But
no,
it's
and I'm
just like-
interested to hear your experiences on that as like, because you all are younger than me.
Yeah.
And people are always like, what's it like now? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I mean, like I know what it's like for me, but it's like we've reached in Bikini Kill and in Le Tigre, bands that are still touring, it's like we've reached this different level where we still do feel a lot of that expectation, but I don't know what people who are just on their second, third album are feeling about that.
Yeah.
Who have, I mean, the thing that I've seen is that if you are progressive and you say it, then it's like, well, where'd you get your shoes? Are you vegan?
Totally.
Are you doing this?
Yeah.
Are you doing like? There's this whole like list of things, and it's all about being a brand and not being a hypocrite. It's like
yes.
it's like well, and I remember somebody actually writing this to me in an email where they were like, well, you sold me a bill of goods because you said that you are a feminist, and my definition of feminist is XYZ, and because you're not doing every single point on this list, then you're not really a feminist. I was like, well, there's as many different kinds of feminisms as there are women in the world. So like, you know, whatever, I don't give it. I actually didn't write the person back. I put it in the trash, but
Yeah, totally.
you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? It's like that thought pattern of like, okay, so you put yourself out and you said, you know, we're about queer joy. So now you have to constantly be writing the anthem. You have to constantly be writing the Don't Kill Yourself song. You have to constantly be, you know, like.
That's so funny because I feel like we were at one point, like our last album, we were thinking about naming it something along the lines of "Don't kill yourself."
I don't remember.
I don't
that,
remember
but
exactly, but like it
could
rings. It's familiar to me.
Don't unalive yourself, you mean?
Yeah,
yeah,
unalive.
yeah,
I know.
sorry.
We're
I
gonna,
wish I
we'll
was
get canceled
unalive.
for that.
I think it is. It's just. It's also. I think it's just everything. It's probably very similar, just with the inclusion of like social media allowing you to do the forensics on a person. Like there's just like greater maybe access to that type of criticism that you're getting out of.
It
like,
was the same
where
before
you're-
the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it's the damn same, and
I
ain't
also
shit
feel
changed.
like I don't know, and maybe you
Where it's
relate
like,
to
this
this.
picture
Like
of you from whatever.
I identify as progressive, and like I also am a queer person that is in a band with queer people, but you know my background, like I'm also like a skinny white girl who like comes from a lot of class privilege, so it's been interesting navigating. It's like there is a lot of like learning that I have to do, and there's like a lot of ignorance that I like come into certain spaces with. So I think I actually generally feel that I've been given a like kind of a lot of space to learn things, and like we try to have a bit of a dynamic with fans where it's like they understand that we're people, and I mean like the real ones, you know, like not the ones that are just dropping by to like critique you and then roll right along, but like I feel like there's a little bit of a dynamic of like sometimes I need to be their student and like need to be there to learn.
Oh yeah.
And I do feel like we're granted that in different situations, but
Totally.
but
yeah, but I think it is frustrating when it's like artists who do just the status quo thing. It's like, well, I said I was an asshole, or like, you know what I mean? It's either it's either well, I said I was an asshole, so now I have free reign to be a total bigot in every way, shape, and form, and they're like, oh, that's just what he's like. You know what I mean? It's like it's punk rock, like anti-PC punk rock, and like, or it's just people are just status quo and not going to say anything, or not going to like, you know, go out of their way to like, you know, like include fans that are typically told to fuck off at the door.
Yeah,
Totally.
And it's like they're not going to make any extra steps to do anything.
yeah.
But and it's like they don't have any standard.
Yeah,
held to
and
them.
we don't
I mean,
need-
I'm married to somebody who like wrote one of the most sexist records of all time and has never been boycotted. I've been boycotted more times than years than I've been alive.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so I think that tells you something right there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
and I mean, sometimes with very good reason, and sometimes just bullshit.
Guys, who doesn't want to get absolutely shredded for summer? Or just have a shredded mealtime, meaning less time in the kitchen with Factor Meals.
I certainly want that, and I would love to hear more.
Yeah, Factor Meals has over 35 different meal options that you can order from, whether it's calorie smart, keto, vegetarian, dietitian approved meals for you at your house.
I know for me, I'm getting the protein option because I'm trying to crush my wellness goals this May.
Yeah,
and
she's trying to be able to open a bottle with her ass.
Yeah, I'm trying to bulk up the booty this summer, and I'm using Factor Meals to help me with that. I have 2 eyes with which I can see my restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon.
Shrimp?
Yesterday, I was making jokes that I was going to start making popcorn shrimp.
I would love that if you did. I
Don't
actually
you
would
think it would be
completely
funny
believe
if someone
that
was
if you
like,
did that.
"Come over, Naomi's making popcorn shrimp." That was really making me laugh. Anyway,
I can
maybe
totally
Factor
imagine
can
you guys saying
popcorn
that.
shrimp. It's
I
just
could
funny
totally-
to me.
Well, you guys can come over and try any of the Factor meals that I have.
I would love to share the meals ready in 2 minutes with you, my friend.
I'm so impressed with how passionate you guys are about this and how much information you've memorized in order
you
to be
so
able
much.
to educate me.
I ordered it for my great aunt Helen.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I'm ordering it for myself.
My great aunt me.
My great aunt
I should
Katie.
probably order it for my mom too.
Yeah.
Mom, if you're watching this, let me know if you actually, I told her she's not allowed to watch the podcast.
No.
Head to factormeals.com/gayotic50, factormeals.com/gayotic50 and use code gayotic50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month.
Wow.
That's code gayotic50 at factormeals.com/gayotic50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. 50% off your first box. That's like
great.
3 free meals.
Yeah, yummy.
Yummy.
Totally.
I remember finally realizing when I lived in a small town and like, you know, we were in magazines, but I mean, we didn't have a publicist, management, anything like that. But because we went to England and we were in a couple of magazines, and our town got a magazine store. Like we didn't have a magazine store
Yeah.
for a really long time. And then we got one in like the 93 or 94. And then people were like, oh, they're in magazines, you know, they're a big deal. And it was wild to like see how mad people were. And like, I think if I would have gotten out of the small town then, it probably I would have had a whole different experience. But
Yeah.
it was like everybody that, you know, knows who sleeps with who and who just left someone's apartment at 3 a.m. And like, it was just too much to be in that kind of fishbowl because
Totally.
in the real world, I was like niche famous. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
super niche famous. Like
Yeah.
you know, like William Shatner at a Star Trek convention.
Yeah,
famous. Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe he wouldn't get recognized if he's wearing a baseball hat, but if he goes into the Star Trek convention, everyone's gonna be like, whoa.
That's kind of how we feel too, to be honest. Like niche.
Yeah, like if you go into a certain situation, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my god!" But
Yeah.
in you could just walk around in your life and like everything's famous. But if
Yeah.
you're in a small town, you're like Demi Moore. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
If you're like even in like Spin magazine or you know
Totally.
when their print mattered,
Yeah.
it was
What
like
small town was it?
Olympia,
Okay.
Washington.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually the capital, but it's still
Yeah.
it functions as a small town. It was a
Yeah.
wonderful breeding ground to make music because there was a super supportive musical community there, and like it was just the kind of place where people were like, "Oh, well, right now there's no all ages venue, so let's put on a show in the middle of the night, the laundromat."
So
You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
that kind
That's
of
sick.
thing.
Yeah.
And so it was like coming of age because I went to college there and I started when I was 17, and it was like coming of age around where it was like people were like, "Oh, I'll loan you a mic."
Yeah.
Or like
Wow.
I'll play drums on your thing, or
Right.
I'll show you how to use my 8-track, like that kind of vibe, that permissible. Like I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to be in that beautiful fishbowl. But then once we started getting attention, it became really hard
Yeah.
Yeah.
to stay there.
Yeah.
And I think I did stay a little too long.
Okay.
But yeah, and then like I moved to New York and nobody gave a shit, and it was so awesome.
Wait,
Yeah.
so Bikini Kill started in Olympia?
Yeah.
And how did you meet the other members of the band?
I mean, it was sort of like we were around, like just people around. Like I saw Toby Vale was in this band called Go Team that I really liked.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, she's so pretty and she's so cool and she's such a good musician. Like, you know, all this stuff. I just
Rebel
like,
girl.
yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I had like a whatever friendship crush on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, you know, like she goes to the same coffee shop I do. I would just see her walking around. And, you know, I'd been to punk shows and reggae shows and stuff in high school where I was in Portland, Oregon.
Okay, cool.
And then when I was in Olympia, it was like, I actually saw people in bands like every day.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wait, they're not some far off,
Yeah.
you know, like other
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
species of, you know, human, like
Right.
that is unattainable. And that started giving me the idea. I always sang, but I didn't know I could be in a band. And I was like, oh, I could do this. And then the real, I think, galvanizing thing was me, Toby, and Kathy were at the same Babes in Toyland show.
Cool.
Like at some shack in the woods, and they remember it totally different. But I remember it that everybody was like, oh, they're too pretty. Their music sucks. I was like, what? Like, what does what they look like have to do with anything? It's like, well, it kind of like, it was like it canceled each other out. Like the stuff
Yeah.
people were saying was so wild. And I was just like, I just saw the most important band that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Totally.
I feel like everything I feel on the insides has been validated.
Mm.
I was just like really, really moved
Yeah.
by the performance. And then
And you heard people talking shit.
everybody, and this was like my punk family. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
That's
And then you're
crazy.
like, because I came to punk community looking for family. I came to feminism looking for family, which
Totally.
is kind of not the best plan, I don't think, because then the disappointment level and the anger at being disappointment is so off the charts that it's a little bit unreasonable. But
Right.
I just like I ended up hanging out with them by a bonfire at the end of the night, and we were all like, that was the best thing I've ever seen.
You're like, you just saw what I saw,
Yeah.
right?
And then I
Yeah.
was just sort of like mental note, like I like those too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Toby and Kathy they worked at a sandwich shop underneath the apartment building that me and Toby lived in.
Cool.
Play.
And me and Kathy went to the same college. We went to Evergreen State College. And Toby just like lived in Olympia. She wasn't going to school at the time. She
Okay.
just worked at the sandwich shop.
Yeah.
And her parent, like she'd lived there for a long time.
And then when did you guys first play together? Like, how did it?
Well, I was in a band called Viva Knievel, and we went on tour, and then we came back, and I had to finish school, so I came back to Olympia, and then somebody told me Toby thought I was a good singer because she saw Viva Knievel play, but we were kind of like heavy metal, and so I was like, I thought she wouldn't like it because
Yeah.
they were more like K-punks, if you know what
Yeah.
that
I
kind of
don't
genres.
personally.
It's like, I guess it's like kind of untrained. I don't know, how would you describe
It's
it?
like
going
scrappy.
by the
It's like a
feeling?
little, yeah, but in a sick way. Kind. I mean, yeah, it's hard to explain.
like-
you know it when you listen.
it's punk, but it's like not toxic masculinity punk.
It's
like
not
it
like
can,
shredding punk. It's like
can be like singer-songwriter. It can be like goofy. It's like, you know, the
Okay.
Peanuts dancing around.
I
the
might
dance
like
to this
it
music.
more
I don't
than
know. I don't know how to describe it, but
Yeah.
but I don't remember what I was saying. I don't even know who
You're
I
like
am
the
or
only
where
punk
am
music
at
I could
right
actually
now.
listen to, honestly. Like I wish I liked punk. I think it would make me
What is your mainstream thing that you like the most?
What do you mean? Like
She's like
what's
she
my bread and butter?
Like, are you like a
Women's-
Michelle Branch
like,
person? Like what?
A
what
little
is-
bit. I'm like Tracy Chapman and like
yeah.
Tori Amos. I'm like
Yeah.
Lilith Fair.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
like a little
her
bit softer, like
thing
women's
for sure.
music, I guess. But I thought, I mean, when I heard you, I was like, okay, I could do this. Like I could like, I was very angry. So I was like, let's make this work. But then when we tried to make music, like we tried to start an actual punk band, and I was like, I think I'm just like, I only have pop music. Like it's really
You were
hard for
just
anything else to come
Denying
out.
it.
Yeah.
We our band name was great. That was called Cuddle Slut.
Yeah.
That's pretty
We were in a
cute.
band
I know,
with
it's
this
good.
other
It's a very cute
musician.
Did we make any music?
Actually, Rosie just
No.
put a record out. They just put a record
Yeah.
out. It's really good. Rosie Tucker. But yeah, you were talking about when y'all first jammed. That was the question.
We never jammed.
Okay. Slay.
I've never really been a person who jams.
Do you hate it?
I'm anti-jam.
I'm anti-jam. I mean, I have jammed. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I have jammed.
It's tough.
I will jam if forced to jam.
No, I'm playing music with some friends now, and like we don't really jam. We just like, get together and write songs. But
Yeah,
Wow.
that's
I was
cool.
I was terrified of jamming when I first started playing music because everyone knew so much more about
Yeah.
music. I felt like
Yeah.
Toby's like
I felt that way
she
too.
has like every record. She like knows like she knows so much about like punk rock history and like hardcore and when like English punk became hardcore and like
Totally.
all this stuff. And like now
Whoa.
she's like talking about egg punk and like I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, I mean, she's constantly educating me about stuff, but she had like the best record collection. She's turning me on all this music. But when we would jam, I'd be totally scared that they would be playing a cover, like a really popular cover, like some advert song that I didn't know or something.
Yeah.
And then I would just start singing random to
Yeah.
it. And then they'd be like, you're singing like the wrong lyrics to
Right.
Safety in
Fuck.
Numbers by the adverts. And I'd be like,
shit.
Yeah,
but I also kept writing, I played bass in the band at first. And
Yeah.
I was like, I kept writing either The Stooges, I Want to Be Your Dog, or Smoke on the Water.
Whoa.
Hell
And
I
bringing
mean,
it into practice.
both
Like,
rule, yeah.
like I was like, you know, like I just wrote it. Like I would bring
Totally.
it in and be like, check out this awesome lick. And they'd be like, and that helped me a little bit get over the thing of like, just, you know, you're nervous. I was nervous.
Yeah,
nervous.
totally.
I'm a nervous
Gosh.
person. I was so nervous about jamming and like doing the wrong thing or
Yeah.
like, how do you do this?
No,
Like, it
so
took me
much of-
forever to be able to.
I still feel that way, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like it's just it's so vulnerable to have to do in front of other people. It's so tough. When you're by yourself, it's like you could just do that for hours.
But
But
do you all write songs like Jamie? How do you write songs?
we don't jam typically.
Dammy doesn't like jamming. I'm cool with.
I really
jamming.
I
don't
kind of
fucking
thought you
like
didn't
it.
like it either.
The only thing that's hard is like a jam doesn't
Structureless jamming.
end.
Right.
Like you can jam for forever, and
If you
I don't
like
think
hit
we-
on one thing that feels good, then you're just gonna play it for 40 minutes and
Yeah, I mean, like I don't think jamming is really productive for
yeah.
us.
I think we're
you
kind
know?
of compartmentalized, like still in terms of
Yeah.
how we write. Like I write pretty much all the lyrics and melodies, and it's either like either one of them like make a beat, or we might make a track together. Like
Yeah.
when we were working on our last record, there were a couple times when we like would go in and like build something where like each of us kind of played one part at a time and like built something in Ableton. But yeah, there's a lot of, I think we respect a lot of like just walking the line of like, it is really hard to be creative and be like creating something in the presence of other people. It's like still feels really scary and potentially embarrassing. And so we do kind of function with like, we'll separate and like, you know, do our little thing and then come back together and be like, do you like it?
To write
You know?
parts, I feel like sometimes that's actually good. Like to be able to sit and not like everyone's like staring at you, being like, "When's the guitar part gonna happen?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you
Like,
can start
you know,
singing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's nice to have some time to like at least come up with a thought or something, and then
Yeah.
you can flush it out from there. At least for us, that's kind of
Yeah.
that's a little bit how it works.
But did you write the lyrics and melodies for Bikini Kill, or was it all
Yeah.
kind of collaborated?
Yeah, I mean, Toby wrote her the songs that she sang.
Yeah.
The better songs.
Shut up.
And I wrote the melodies and the lyrics and stuff.
Okay.
And
And would you do
I
it-
started out by using old stuff like that I'd written in high school and just
Cool.
like brought it in. Like I had a folder of bad high school poetry.
Cool.
Sure.
Brought that in.
I mean,
Worked through that.
I mean, what's
And
a
then I
better
started
archive?
just writing new stuff.
Yeah.
And then later I got really into the thing of singing dummy lyrics
What does that mean?
Yeah.
where you just like,
Like mouth, just like
you just
I think
jam.
that's great. Yeah.
You don't do that?
I've like thought about it. I don't think I've really committed to trying.
I think
Okay,
we need to
here's a
experiment
good thing
with
to listen
freedom.
to. Yeah, you just because the thing that's cool is it can make you be a better rhythmic singer.
Cool.
I think
I
because
think Leland does this. The
Yeah.
guy that we work with.
definitely
at
a lot
times.
of the people songwriting. People
yeah,
do it.
people who are
Listen
like
to-
professional dudes.
go on like whatever your thing of choice is and
Mhm.
look up Billie Jean demo,
Okay.
Michael Jackson, and listen to him
Oh wow.
riffing. I
Really?
mean, whatever. I know
That's
problematic,
interesting.
whatever, but like amazing.
He did it with
huge,
dummy
important-
lyrics.
Yeah,
That's so crazy.
listening to the first
That's
iteration
so
of Billie
cool.
Jean, where he's like, "Hey, hey, ba, ba, da." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that
totally.
is crazy.
like because I saw Toby doing it and I was like, oh, and then she would sit down and then specifically write stuff to the syllables, and then it
Yeah.
also makes it changes the way that I think about pronunciation
Totally.
and like drawing out. Like Lana Del Rey does it a lot of times, like
Yeah.
where she'll
Mhm.
say California and then she'll say California.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
lyrics or like
Yeah.
whatever, like, and she'll like add syllables
Yeah.
because she just needs it to say what she has to do. And I find
do
it really
that.
I
funny.
have that disease
yeah,
for sure.
I love it. I think it's really funny. I think it's really humorous, especially when people are singing super dramatic
Yeah, totally.
songs and they do that. I like it always is.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I love it.
Yeah.
People do that a lot in songwriting sessions. I feel like because it's just like you're just trying to figure it out.
I think
Yeah,
it's
no,
like
make
if
it
you, especially in that. I mean, maybe that's like. I have a feeling that that's for like. It's almost just like for ease of time. Like we can't spend time today
I
thinking
just-
about the words. Like figure out what feels good.
But sometimes
and
what
then,
feels
yeah.
good is what informs the words.
Oh, of
Like, I
course.
think that's what.
Of course.
I think.
But it's a
sometimes-
time-saving like
yeah, but
mechanism.
It's like that's the thing that's going to help you figure it out.
Yeah,
know
you
what I
got to
mean?
start somewhere.
Yeah.
I just think it became a lot of pressure after writing together for like 7 years in Bikini Kill. It was like I got basically, I'm sorry, I'm changing the subject, but not
No,
really.
No, go.
Yeah,
I got
please.
a 4-track. I got a cassette 4-track for
Yeah.
$400 with Tascam. It was like changed my
Cool.
life. And so I was able to record instrumentals that
Mhm.
they made. And then I would go into my room
The
and
best.
like,
Yeah.
sing a bunch of different stuff. This was all tape. So I couldn't, it wasn't like the nonlinear editing we have today, which like I love
Mhm.
because I'm not, cutting stuff with a razor blade
Right.
anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was for 8-track. I wouldn't do that on a cassette. But like, it was such writing. Computers have become such an amazing tool, I think, for
Totally.
writing. I mean, I'm mainly a singer. I play guitar and stuff too, but not
Mhm.
well, just enough so that I can write stuff. But like,
Yeah. I'm the
it's
same.
so amazing to just have unlimited amount of
Mhm.
fucking tracks on a Pro Tools
Yeah.
or whatever Logic, whatever you use, and like a Reason, which is like, I don't get it.
Reason's crazy.
I don't get it. I do not have the mind for Reason, but
no
like,
way.
just to be able to have, the basic start of a track and then go in and sing whatever gobbledygook I'm going to sing. And I'll just do that all day long. Like I'll have like 5 different songs that I'm working on. I'll have like basic instrumentals and then just sit there and just like do whatever. And I won't listen back to anything. And I'll just make like 20 tracks of each thing with all these different ideas.
Cool.
And then I'll come back a week later and just edit
I think that's really
all
cool.
the bits. And like, that's how I did almost everything in Late was like that.
Oh,
once
whoa.
once we got non-linear after the first record.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then it was like, it just became really fun. And, working in a linear way was really good too, because it kind of made you have an economy
Yeah.
Yeah.
of ideas.
Yeah.
Totally.
And really kind of like, But I like that nothing's precious in the world of recording now, that it's like so easy to just delete a file if you don't have room for it.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
recording on tape just became like, whoa. Like, I only have 8 tracks, like
Tough.
yeah. And being like, wanting to change stuff and not being able to.
Yeah.
That was like the first demos
definitely.
I ever recorded. I had like my mom got me a Tascam, like an 8-track, and I would just like record, make my own tracks, and then make like harmonies to what I was writing in my bedroom. It was amazing. And then she found it in her storage unit, so I just put it back in my house.
Have you listened to it?
Yeah, actually, it's really
Deep
funny.
I want to hear some of the early lyrics.
Yeah, what type of songs
my
were you
God.
writing?
Like,
I mean, it was that
So
thing of like a
cute.
little kid being like who's never experienced love.
Totally. What the
being
hell?
It's
Kids
just
are so funny.
That's just the cutest shit in the world.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, I
Writing
liked how
love
angry I
songs.
was and how like inappropriate for that age. But it's like, what the fuck does that even mean, But yeah, like one of my first songs that I wrote that I like put on the internet was like a very kind of like angry like sex song. And my dad like called a therapist because he was like, what is up? But I've always kind of felt like you have to like put all the unsayable stuff like in your music, like that. It makes sense.
Hey, you had a dad who cared, and that's what matters.
How old were you when you were writing your angry sex songs?
I think
when
I
you
was
went through
probably,
your
like-
angry sex period.
I wasn't like 9. I was
don't know if that's
making out
ended.
with people. So I was 13. I think I had just made out with Alex Johnson Bice. Oh yeah, I'm gonna say your full name.
Wait, you all made out, the two of you, when you were 9?
No, that was me
She's
looking at the
pointing to the
camera.
camera.
Oh, okay.
She's pointing to the camera to say.
just
I thought
made
it
out
was
with
the two of you.
This
my
for the
producer,
audience,
my
yeah.
producer Alex Johnson Bice.
No.
Honestly, I wish.
No,
I
Katie
wish.
Katie was male exclusive makeouts
Yeah,
for
I
many
was really
years.
wait. Also, like side note, and we can cut this out. But how do you identify in terms of your sexuality?
Bisexual who's
Okay.
married to a straight person.
Yeah,
totally.
slay. Okay.
I'm one of those.
Yeah, totally.
Thank God. I was like, she's got to be queer.
Well, yeah.
Like to some extent. Yeah. But I was very like, early in life was very horny in
Weren't we
general,
all?
but horny. But the outlet for it was boys. It's not men, boys. I should
I
say.
really hope
I
not, man.
certainly hope so, yeah.
Well,
You're 9. You're like
Yeah.
making out with like the conductor of the train who's 45 years old.
I mean,
God,
like,
that's-
woo. It was more like
I don't know why. I just thought of a guy with a conductor hat.
Joe's health is going straight down the shooter because she is vitamin deficient. Look at her. God damn. You
I've
look
been
like you could
begging and
s-
pleading for months now to get
Please
Josette
get
on a
back on
supplement,
it.
a little powder that you put in your drink that I know would do everything that you need.
It's the
If
color
only
of
there
these
was
chairs and the
something-
color of the plants. It's the color
It's
of
color
the
of
trees,
the trees
and the color of money. It's green, green, green.
That's
AG1.
AG1.
And if I knew better, I would drink that drink on up. I could get better. I would take my AG1.
I was drinking AG1 in the kitchen this morning. I mixed it into my Elmhurst cashew milk. Woo! Foam it up, and mix it with creatine. It makes it really powdery and strange, but I still slurp it down.
AG1, what? AG1. So go, buy some AG1. What?
Why should you buy the AG1, Joe?
I shouldn't have to tell you, but here you go.
AG1 has all the ingredients. It's tested with no contaminants, and it's safe, and it has a lot of good stuff in it. That's all.
Taking care of my health
Wait, let me
shouldn't
try,
be
let me try.
complicated.
AG1 is NSF certified for sport. One of the most rigorous independent quality supplement industry.
Oh, we just have so much fun.
Anyway,
Ooh.
we do love it. I'm sorry that we sing every time we do it.
It seems like also they have a joy chemical that gets injected into it. It provides us with extreme amounts of happiness.
I just love it. I gulp it down. I do it
Yeah.
every morning. And if you order it now, you also get the little like tincture of vitamin D3 and K2.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I put that in as well.
Good for you. Vitamin D3 will help you stop being depressed.
Vitamin D is actually the one vitamin. Like, if listen to me, if you're a girly in your 20s and you're not taking a single thing, you're
Take
saying,
that.
I don't care. Take vitamin D.
You need it because it's going to help you stop being depressed. Most people, you need to be out in the sun, get that vitamin
Also,
D.
everyone is really vitamin B deficient, right? Especially if you're vegan or
Yeah, I mean,
vegetarian.
if you're gonna
definitely
ramp it
B12.
up, I would say also do the B.
You know what the thing that's great
The
though
B is in AG1.
Yeah, exactly.
And the vitamin D3 is what you get for free if you order AG1 now. So if you want your multivitamin and more, you can go to drinkag1.com/gayotic. You'll try it and you'll get a free 1-year supply of the D3 and K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription at drinkag1.com/gayotic. That's drinkag1.com/gayotic. Check it out.
I love anything miniature.
Yeah, there's in
Me
Griffith
too.
Park. There's a really
Do you have
wonderful
many things in your
train.
house?
I mean, I don't want to say that I have Barbies at my house because I'm too old.
Because you do.
But let's just say someone has Barbies at your house.
I played with Barbies in the attic of my house when I was 15.
Hell yeah.
That's
Hell yeah.
awesome.
And
were you doing crazy stuff?
I mean, let's just say Barbie went to the doctor a lot. Barbie had a lot of medical concerns.
Of course.
And Skipper was always watching. So I don't know what the fuck that meant. But no, I built them a lot of houses. Like I was really into like
Construction?
We had these weird like frosted pieces of plastic in our attic. I don't know what they were for.
Okay.
But there was like a huge box of them. And so I would use them with cardboard boxes and
To
I would
build.
make,
yeah.
Wow.
and I would like take little pieces of wallpaper and,
so
hang
cool.
them. So I
That's
was
really cute,
really
to be
into the
honest.
architecture of, where Barbie and her little sister Skipper lived.
Yeah.
And I was into, changing their clothes. But I wasn't really doing that many storylines besides the doctor thing. And that was always with my friend Becky or Maureen.
Bad
I mean,
bad
that's-
influences.
Shout out to Becky Downing and Maureen Gaines.
Smart pass is really cool.
Hell
Past
yeah.
and present.
No, it's fun to have
what's
those.
This is a total
Wait, I want to
and
go back
complete
and ask a
side note.
Okay, what?
What's the museum? Is it the Chicago Museum that has that section that's all the miniatures?
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's amazing. Have you been
Do you
there?
know what I'm
No.
talking about?
Art Institute.
It's really cool.
Oh, it's at the Art Institute?
Yeah, I think so.
It's
yeah,
really rad. It's like a whole section of just like very accurate
amazing
miniatures.
like rooms, and sometimes you can see like my favorite ones are the ones that it's like there's windows and like if you like look at the right angle, you can like see they have like a little patio outside and like a
So
little like
cool.
painting in the background that
I
makes it
love
look like
that.
it like goes
I
on
love
into a
it.
different world.
So nice.
It's really cool.
Okay,
I recommend it.
Ask your question.
Well, so you had mentioned that you like kind of used your you had mentioned that you used your like high school poetry. So I'm really curious about like Kathleen as a kid. Like when did you start songwriting? Like was it something that you knew that you wanted to do for a long time, like wanted to be a singer? And then I'm also curious about the content of the high school poetry.
Yeah, I always wanted to sing, but I didn't have very much confidence. I didn't have like stage parents or anybody who was like in the business. Like
Okay.
I moved a lot. We moved every 3 years.
What did your parents do?
My dad was a pipe fitter welder. My mom was a psychiatric nurse.
Okay.
Whoa.
But my dad was elected to be the head of his labor union. So we moved to the suburbs of DC. So we moved around Maryland a
Okay.
lot.
yeah, totally.
Which is why I say woof instead of wolf.
yeah.
Wait, I say that. That's where my grandma's from Maryland.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that why I say that?
yes.
Wow.
Also, how do you say Picture?
Oh, she says pitcher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
picture. I was just doing my audiobook and I was like, they were constantly like, do it. Like every time the word picture came up, they're like, do it again. I was like, picture.
And can you just fly that around?
No, my friend Allison is in the book and her last name is Wolf. And it's like, see, I just did it pretty good. But I kept being like, Allison Wolf, Cindy Wolf, her twin. And then I was like, oh, fuck, now the twin's going to come up. But anyway.
Wolf doesn't sound right to me. Like,
it's
that
wolf.
Sounds weird.
It's like wolf. Like it sounds like, whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll
The
do
rest
our
of you are fucking weird.
Maryland song and dance later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I moved around a lot. So I was like, you know, singing was the thing that I did by myself in secret along to records that made me feel stable. Like I had this one thing that no matter what house I lived in, if I could get a record player and a 45 of the Jackson 5 dancing machine, I could sing to that. I could dance to that. I loved making up routines, like choreographing stuff. Like I would run home from school so psyched to get to the record player to make up. Like I had dances to a whole Roy Orbison album.
That's really
like
sick.
there's no musicians in my family and no one had a big record collection, so we had like a couple records. So like Kenny Rogers in the 5th edition or 1st edition, who originally, you know, Kenny Rogers was the bass player, and then the singer left, and then he became the singer.
Whoa.
And then they used to be a psychedelic band. So I listened to them when they were like a psychedelic band, and I had all these dances. I had one to Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison where I would like walk kind of like runway, like I was like walking down the street like this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I was the pretty woman, and then I was like, oh, you know, like
That's so
it was
cool.
so ridiculous. But
So you would have done really well on TikTok, basically.
oh God, I'm so glad that I didn't have any of that stuff because I would have embarrassed myself. I mean, and my parent, I was, you know, always by myself, so like nobody would have known.
Yeah.
Like I would have been putting out angry sex songs when I was 9 or like you know, finger fucking. Like I would have been doing bad stuff. So I'm
Well, how did you know what my song was called?
Jesus Christ.
Wait, but did you have access to any music by women, or was it generally guys?
It was mostly guys, like, but we had singers. My first concert was Donnie Marie and the Osmonds.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I screamed so loud. It was the first time I lost my voice, which I think all singers remembered that first time when you lose your voice.
He was a major heartthrob too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole thing of that they were a family and they like all performed together. And I was like, that's like a total fantasy, you know, because I didn't have that kind of. My mom always supported me, but we weren't in this family where it was like love and support and we all play music together.
Yeah.
But then there was sort of it was all based on like the Jackson 5, and then what came after the Jackson 5 was like the Osmonds, like the white version, like the whitewash version of the Jackson 5, and then even more weird offshoots like Tony DeFranco and the DeFranco family, which I was heavily into, and actually Seth from Gravy Train also knew about.
Oh, really?
That was one of our early bonding things.
That's so funny.
But I had all the Tony DeFranco and the DeFranco family records, and I could sing just like him. Like I would imitate his voice. So I did a lot of imitating boy singers who had either falsetto or high voices. Like when I found out about Frankie Lyman, you know, I would like imitate Frankie Lyman. So
interesting.
I was always imitating guys with high voices, or like Daryl Hall, or you know, what have you. Those were like the singers I like to try to imitate and match. And then I did musical theater, but not like I did musical theater like in the school play kind of thing. And
then were there.
I tried.
Yeah.
Then I aged out of the system by the time I was 12. They were like,
Get out.
yeah. So then I tried to be in like a children's choir. Like I was always trying, but it was like I was the kid who had to like get the bus fare, get on the bus, go do it myself. Like I wish I had a stage mom or a stage dad to like be pushing me, although I feel really bad for people who do and don't want that. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I think it ended up the way it was supposed to, because I'm 55, so I missed Star Search. Like I'm too old to have been on like, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it was like early reality show where they had like Britney Spears was on it.
Beyonce
Was on
was
it.
on
Like
Destiny's
Beyonce was
Child.
on it. I have a friend who was in a dance team, in a break dancing team that was on that.
Well,
And like I was like, oh man, I missed out. If only I was born a few years later, I would have been able to go on Star Search. So like we didn't have any of that stuff, but that's what I fantasized about. Like I had Shirley Temple. Like I was like, I could do that.
Yeah,
I could be Shirley Temple. Like I wanted to be Shirley Temple, or I wanted to be on. They had a Mickey Mouse Club in the '80s that all the Facts of Life girls was on.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know
And like Molly Ringwald was on it. Lisa Welchel, Joe. I don't forget her name. You know the girl who played Joe from Facts of Life?
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
She's like
but-
the Joan Jett of Facts of Life or whatever. Um,
But it's so interesting because
Nancy McEwen.
There you go.
Sorry.
It always comes back.
there's
You're
so
like-
many people now who like if they had their like choice of, you know, any way of like coming up, it's like I think so many people romanticize specifically the scene that you were in, like in Olympia. And the idea of like
Don't.
that's like
The PN dub.
well, it's like that's the
Yeah,
It just makes me
definitely.
think
Wait,
about
I thought you
too
said
like
PM Dawn.
No,
Really, it was when PM Dawn came out.
It was when
That
PM
scene.
Dawn
If I
came
could have been
out.
in any scene and be in the scene that PM Dawn was in.
no, but it's like that idea
lace.
of not being plucked out of obscurity by like some bigger authority, but like really doing it with your friends,
like grinding it out with.
And
yeah.
like I'm sure y'all didn't realize, or maybe you fucking did, but it's like not knowing what a scene is like when you're in it. But it's like that specific scene, I think so many people, including myself, like have romanticized as like that is such an amazing way to like come into your own as an artist, because I don't know.
I think not being in a major city can be a plus because it's cheaper, it's easier to live, especially now because things
Yeah.
have changed so much. Like I remember seeing a thing where Patti Smith was like, yeah, you know, me and Mapplethorpe could just like get an apartment for like $50 or like whatever. And it's like,
Right.
kids can't do that now.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's being pushed to like the fringes of every area. And so it's like, it's really hard to be an artist and live in a major city. And I felt really lucky that like I didn't have the economic pressure that people who lived in New York and Los Angeles or
Yeah.
places like that had, because my rent was $100 and I lived in punk houses and my rent was always like $100.
That is
I
so
lived in like
important.
garages. Like
Yeah.
I lived in a garage in the house Carrie Brownstein lived in. Like I had the garage, you know, like, and
Crazy to me.
yeah, I was like, Carrie has a real room.
Damn you,
I was
Carrie.
like, damn you, Carrie, you have a real
God damn
room.
it.
I was like, you're younger than me and you have a real room. But no, the garage was fine for the time. It was like in between tours or whatever. But you know, it was so cheap that we didn't have to sell stuff. And like I think that
Yeah.
people who live in major cities, like they don't have the kind of options that we
Yeah.
had. Like they have to like go out there and like totally grind just to
Yes.
pay rent. And
Yeah.
so it's like, I don't know. I feel very fortunate about that. And I feel very fortunate to be of the age where I know what it was like without the internet. Cause like I have a real appreciation for what it can do and how it can connect people.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's the scene now for people who are spread apart. You know what I mean? They find people through online, you know?
Yeah, and it can be great.
Yeah.
And like it's not like I never want to be like, oh, we had to pull rocks up a hill with, you know, to get to our gigs, or I mean we did like
same.
But you, yeah,
we
but
pulled,
we did.
we pulled over at Taco Bell and called the promoter and said, can we get directions, you know,
Wow.
on the way? Like there was no like, and I just think about it now. I'm like, God, touring without cell phones, touring without internet, touring without MapQuest, like all that stuff. How
Yeah.
did we do anything? Like, and also we were such fuck ups, and we were also like had our own problems that we never talked about, and like how did we even make it a year?
Yeah.
Is like bananas to me. But
yeah.
Yeah.
it's also like really cool that I know what creating community in real time in real life is like.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm guessing, and you all would know more about this than I would, but it's like, is there like a nostalgia for like, whoa, what for people who didn't experience life very much before the internet, of like, what would that be like? Like, I wish I didn't feel so surveilled.
I feel like you have a real, when we were in college, you really wanted a scene, like, very badly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could have been that thing of like wanting a family, like a place where I felt like I belonged. But I kind of had it. Like there was one house that like people convened at. I think it is very important. Like I get that the internet is bringing people together, but like having a physical space where
Oh, totally.
you can just show up and you just have a feeling that like you don't know exactly who's going to be hanging out there, but like people are going to be hanging and something's going to be happening, like is very meaningful.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I think people in our generation, like maybe, I don't know what it's like now. You know, I had that in high school and
we
shit.
kind of straddled. Like
Yeah.
we had like we had the internet since what? We have had the internet for forever, but like in terms of the way people were keeping in touch with each other, it really didn't get kind of mediated by social media in the way that it is now until like the end of our high school.
Yeah,
time.
if not early college.
Early college, maybe. Yeah, like Instagram didn't exist, and we had MySpace, but it was still very much about like who you're texting or who you can call, whose parents' house you can call to figure out like when you're gonna go over and hang out and stuff. So it was like we straddle like the kind of older. We're right between Gen Z and the kind of younger millennials.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
like
where
we
we're
got
at.
social media when we were teenagers.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean,
know.
I felt like I kind of felt like I had I mean, there was a little bit of a scene. I'm from San Diego, and there was a little bit of like a hardcore punk scene there in the early 2000s that I felt kind of connected to. And there were a lot of kids in bands, which was cool. But I didn't really do anything. I just went to shows, which was fun. But it was very, 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 very male. Very, very, very. But yeah, that was kind of the only like scene that I felt existed.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like literally in college, I think was the first time where I ever really like made friends who were girls, and like found like
Yeah.
it sounds so stupid.
One of them
but-
actually was not a girl.
No, but I'm saying generally.
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I'm saying.
Yeah,
plot
and then
twist.
one of
She was
and
looking
then one
at
of them
you when
turned
she
out-
said that.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Motherfucker. But like it was the first time I really was so stupid because I just grew up in such like a sexist place and was like so indoctrinated in like the rhetoric of sexism and sexism in music where I was like I just didn't know like how girls could like rock or whatever and like how I could actually have like real meaningful relationships with women that were actually so much more meaningful than like the relationships I had with men growing up and not treating women like dirt and it's just funny.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I
but I
really
mean like we
only
were
was-
allowed in the like being dykes. It's like
Yeah, we were you were like, yeah, you're like
Boys,
a boy. You're like a boy. You're like if a girl was really cool. Like that was like what it was, which was, and it felt, you kind of did feel like special to be included, but also aware. Yeah, but also like, yeah, looking back, it's like, oh, this is awful.
Looking back, you're like, God, that's horrible.
Those
I'm
people
horrible.
sucked.
Yeah.
And now I
When
can
did
barely
it
be
kinda
around
shift
men.
for you, like, and also you can stop me if you're like, I'm not gonna tell all this because people just need to read it in the memoir.
Well, what I was gonna say is
I'm not telling the same
buy
exact
the
stories.
Yeah, wait, buy the book. Wait, everyone hold their hands up. They have to edit the book and
Can
talk
edit the
about
book.
hands.
And
Buy the book.
here's a link to
link.
buying it. Yeah.
It's fun just hanging out. I feel
Good.
very isolated, so this is very nice. I appreciate it.
I'm glad this is
that's
a
so
hangout.
nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks for having me. It's
Of
really
course.
cool.
This is a
I love
pleasure.
you.
Is it too okay to say it?
Katie, I'm in love with you, and this is the best moment of my life. I'm in love with you, and I would like to move in with you now that I know where you live.
It sounds awesome over there in the neighborhood we
I
won't
happen to
mention.
be there all the time. Katie said.
They just built a blank very close, and I hear it's very nice.
Wait,
I'm just
actually,
teasing you. I'm just teasing
No,
you.
no,
we
I'm,
tease her.
I'm that person in
Sorry,
my
Katie.
band that's like, I love you guys.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
totally.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm totally that person that is like, like they're like, she's gonna cry. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so no shame.
every band needs every
shame.
band
That.
needs one.
I'm like, you guys, I need to like clear my throat chakra before
Yeah,
I do the show. So I'm gonna
100%.
cry about this thing that happened 18 years ago right now.
Yeah, and that is
That's
totally
great. Gotta
valid
hear
to
it.
me and
That's
makes
great.
complete
Yeah.
sense. Well, first of all, I have the question for Kathleen, but I also, what would you say was the thing that like kind of shifted for you that made
What's
you?
your deal?
Yeah, why did you go from hating?
We actually, the three
from
of us got
not caring
together
about-
and
yeah.
talked about these questions
and
for
talked
you.
about what your deal is.
What is your deal?
I don't know, man.
No, but like what
Start
shifted that
fucking
made
no.
you interested in hanging out with girl,
Maybe,
aka
like,
me?
Exposure therapy. I don't know. I started becoming friends with girls when I was like in my senior year of high school a little bit because I would bring the girls to hang out with all my guy friends.
Okay,
Which
so
is
it was a
horrible. I would
mission.
lure them into the
You
trap.
would get
Like,
sent
I'm
on a
like-
mission.
I lure them into a trap.
Yeah,
You were
a mole.
I don't know what changed. I think it's just like getting older. You know what? It's really funny. Like I started listening to also just like I grew up listening to so much like classic rock and like ska and like
Cock rock.
bullshit. A lot of cocks everywhere.
Yeah.
And then like my senior year, I was like listening to like Little Dragon and Saint Vincent a lot.
Yeah,
And I was
totally.
like, this is sick.
Good.
I just didn't, you know. Yeah, I just didn't. I don't know. It just took some time. I don't know why I became friends with you though. That's the different.
I guess I kind of forced
Became
it.
friends with you.
Yeah, I got a strong hand, I think.
You did that, yeah. Historically.
Mhm.
Okay, ask your
She's
other
so
question
gentle,
to not
but
me. She's
Well,
so gentle.
I mean, I just like I do kind of see you as somebody who had like the vision for like fostering this community of like girls to the front, and like I'm wondering if you have a moment in your mind of like where that shift kind of happened of like just being a member of like the punk scene that was so male dominated to like I'm gonna have like this band and also have like this concerted effort of like building a community where like women are really like emboldened to be the ones in the bands and you know
Be seen as human.
be seen as human
not
beings.
being part of a trap.
That was the radical
Yeah.
concept. That's
Yeah,
what
how
was
did
always
you
so-
ever
Women
think
are
of
people.
that?
That was what was always so funny is like a lot of it
Jesus
honestly
Christ.
was totally selfish.
Yeah.
It was like kind of
Sure.
the same things we're all talking about like when you're like, oh my God, my female friendships mean like so much to me. And
Yeah.
like, these are like, I had this intellectual and musical friendship with Toby Vale that just radically changed my life. And,
Yeah.
and, you know, I always had female friends and they're always like I usually had like one best friend. They were the most important person because I moved all the time. So I didn't typically have a big group of friends. I would have like one friend
Yeah.
and just hang out with that person.
Yeah.
And I would always like think they were just the coolest, you know, person in the world and, you know, want to hang out with them every day and do everything with them and paint rocks with them and, you know, practice kissing in a tent.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I was
you know,
going to
like,
ask.
that kind of-
I was
that
like,
kind
this
of
sounds
thing.
gay as hell.
It is. It's gay as hell. It is. I mean, again, shout out to Becky Downing.
Shout out. Yeah, hell yeah.
Though I
That's
may
the
get
title of
I
that,
may
by
get
the
some
way.
kind of
Shout
like
out, shout
libel,
out.
like cease and desist thing from her. But no, like, you know, it was really selfish. Like I was lucky enough that I kind of fell into being in a band through writing and through meeting this author, Kathy Acker.
Oh, wow.
Who I was a big fan of.
Yeah.
Katie just jizzed her pants.
And
Kathy
then
Acker mentioned?
the weekend after I met Kathy Acker, who is actually the person who told me, because I was doing spoken word, and she was basically like, everybody goes outside and smokes when somebody does spoken word.
Whoa.
She's like, I mean, you guys, it's true.
And
Keeping
she's
it real.
honestly, that's a friend. You
I know. I mean, I didn't even
not
know her. And she
wrong.
like, I had 5 minutes of her time, and this is what she told me. And she's like, because she was like, why do you want to be in a band? This is in the book, but it's a lovely story, and it actually happened. So, and I'm so lucky. I had this really lucky kind of epiphany moment with this author who was like, you know, the person who I was like, I love you, you know.
Yeah.
And I went to a workshop that she gave, and I gave her a fanzine that I called a zine, and I didn't know it was a fanzine. And the whole thing was incredibly embarrassing, and I mispronounced everything, and it was like really wild. But I had 5 minutes with her, and she said, why do you want to write? And I was like, because nobody has ever listened to me my whole life, and I have all this stuff I want to say. And she was like, well, everybody smokes cigarettes when you do spoken word. Because I told her, I was like, I'm a spoken word artist. Like I was trying to impress her. And she's like, you know, I probably got up and read poetry like 3 times. And she's like, you should start a band because everybody wants to hear bands. And like, I was like, yeah, I should. And I'd been singing and stuff, but it was like just the permission that I needed.
Yeah.
And I think that moment informed so much of my life because I wanted to give other women the permission that I had been given.
Yeah.
And I realized that sometimes it really just hinged on like, you know, looking at a friend and being like, what the fuck are you running from?
Right.
Yeah.
Or just saying something that is vulnerable and like, you know, saying, I like your style. You want to hang out, you know, like there's this girl, Amy Smith, who I had a huge crush on. And I was driving to the rape protest on campus,
Hell yeah.
listening to Babes in Toyland really loud. And I saw her walking and I pulled up next to her and I rolled down the window and I was like, hey, you want to go to the rape protest with me? And she was like, yeah. And she got in and like, we just were like jamming to Babes in Toyland on the way to the
So
protest. And I was like, it's moments like that where you just take a risk, you know?
Yeah.
And like in Bikini Kill, it was just a bummer to write songs for, you know, for people who were not at the shows. And also for protection wise, you know, we didn't just say girls to the front because we wanted to like create community and have them be able to see like, oh, it's so easy to play bass or whatever. And you can't see that from the back. But it was also because guys wanted to beat us up and like we needed girls in the front to protect us, to like, you know, we would ask them to walk us to our van at the end of the night so we didn't get beat up. And so
Holy shit.
like they were our protection as well.
Yeah.
So it wasn't this thing that was like, oh, I've got this big, you know, master manipulator plan. I'm a, you know, I'm a future thinker or anything like that. It was just like,
it was fucking functional.
it was functional. And it's like, I want more girls and women to play with in bands. Like I want to be on those bills.
I want to freaking hang out.
I want people to hang out with it. I can like talk about the stuff that like I don't have to explain everything. I can just give a look and like they know exactly what I'm talking about. Like I just want that shorthand. I don't want to have to constantly. I don't want to have to be telling these guys in bands like stop fucking calling me dude. You know, like stop calling me dude and stop acting like I'm you because I'm not you and I don't have the same experience you do and I just don't.
Totally.
You know, like stop telling me that feminists like hate men and like all this boring ass shit I didn't want to talk about and go over and over and over in my head. And, you know, even in Le Tigre much later when we had with electronic music, like meeting Meryl Peaches was a real like big deal for us because like her record had just come out and she was using a lot of the same equipment that we had. And I was like, oh, when I heard the record, I was like, she's either going to be awesome when I meet her or totally suck and be like, I don't want to say what I thought. But then I met her and I was like, oh my God. I mean, so out of control cool.
I met her a couple days ago.
Just like, oh, wow.
Really? She's so great.
Yeah.
Sweet. Like,
she's also just like the weirdest motherfucker you ever want to meet. Totally
Isn't she really
different.
good friends with Leslie Feist too?
Yeah.
I love that friendship.
Yeah, because
so
they were
cute.
like in a kind of Canadian folk scene up there, and then they all came down and did all this different stuff. But anyway, meeting Meryl, meeting Peaches, and then like Chicks on Speed, and like there were some other bands like Stereo Total in like the early 2000s. Like we started feeling like, oh, there's like this feminist electronic music scene happening and we're a part of it. And even though we were so far away and weren't always seeing these people, having that even in our heads was feeling a part of a community that no matter how far away it was, even, you know, even if we weren't like living in the same city or the same town, that was so big to keep us on tour.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And also people don't realize like having a place that you know wants to put out your music, like if you have a friend who starts a record label or a label who cares about queer music or cares about, you know, like 100%. Knowing that that exists helps people start bands because they know I'm not just going to make this and it's going to go off into the ether.
Right.
Like I don't have to put this on SoundCloud for the rest of my life. Like I actually can like, you know, maybe get an advance for recording and not have to save up my money and like all that different stuff. Like there's so many parts of the puzzle that like make it so people can do things. It's not just like, oh, you have to, you know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps in a scene that says that you suck. You know what I mean? Like
it's such a good point. It's such a good point, and it reminds me of something that like you told me a little while ago, which was like it's some like motivational quote about people like tend to underestimate
this is an insane. Okay, it's crazy who it is. It's Tony Robbins.
Is that like the guy that Jacqueline Novak loves?
Respect. Yeah.
Who is this man?
He's a crazy motivational.
He's really a motivational speech quote.
He's
but it is a good
I love
quote.
it.
It's a good quote.
He's maybe the most famous motivational speaker.
Like he kind of invented the genre.
He really did.
He's like
the might be time for me to like get into it. It's like I've touched every other corner of self-help, but
don't get too into it. But this quote
he's more like
rules.
I think business. He's like more like capitalism and business. And
stuff. Like how to increase your profits.
But the quote
but
is
occasionally
good.
something good comes out of.
Okay, well the idea was like people underestimate what they can do in a year, but wait, they overestimate what they can do in a year.
But underestimate what they can do in 10 or 5. Like,
and like what you're saying makes me think about this kind of like positive feedback of like if you put out a record and like you're like a queer pop band and the record does well, like how not only like the effect of just like your record doing well, but other bands that are going to be encouraged to start like because they're seeing that there may be like a chance for them or a home for them. It's just like you actually don't know what it works like in a kind of exponential way, the effect that you can have on like people to come.
You just have no idea. Like you just can't know those. I mean, in a good way. It's like, yeah.
I mean, I never thought when I was 20 or 21,
Yeah.
starting a band with Toby and Kathy, that like I'd be still talking about it at 55, or that I'd still be playing music and touring with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been the really amazing thing, I guess, to sort of like tie the whole thing together is like that back then, like in even like the idea of romanticizing the 90s, like don't, it fucking sucked. Like we were told that feminism did not deserve to exist. It had already been changed. I mean, very similar to what we saw when Barack Obama was president and people tried to act like we lived in a post-racist society. And it's like,
Hilarious.
you know, yeah, absolutely obscene. And, you know, I just remember in the 90s, there was a Time magazine cover that really affected me, and it said, "Is feminism dead?" And it had like a picture of like Ally McBeal. She was like a character on a TV show.
Yeah.
And it was like her and like Gloria Steinem and I don't know, Miss Piggy. I have no idea who the third person was. But
Whoa.
do you guys know who Miss Piggy was?
Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't die, so I should say is.
No,
No,
but
no, no.
Hopefully she's still amongst the living.
She
Yeah.
is. She's she has an age.
She has an agent.
no,
You guys have
she
the same
looks
agent as her,
unbelievable.
so sometimes you do like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish.
Yeah, she's at CAA. And
Yeah, you guys are William Morris, I know. No, but it's like, you know, it was hard times. Like people made fun of us. And even people who liked us for a brief time, you know, there was the Curse of the Sophomore album thing where it's like, oh, well, I really liked them before anybody knew who they were.
Totally.
And when they just had a cassette and then you put something out, and it's like, there's nothing we can do about that. You just got to put out your sophomore album, have everybody hate it, and then move on. But like, there was, because we were very enmeshed in the underground at a time when everything was a us versus the man mentality. And that's not a tenable situation if you didn't grow up with the trust fund. And so it was very complicated to be living in that situation and agree with a lot of the politics behind it, but also having to deal with a very lazy read of class on a constant basis. And you're trying to make it to the next town. And you know, even though we had cheap rent, we still had rent. But it was also the constant, the threats of violence and the actual violence, because the actual violence was real. I was pulled off the stage by my ankles at a show, like, you know, literally, like it had a little runway,
terrifying.
and I was singing, and I went out on the runway. It was in Sweden. I thought it was in Italy, but Toby and Kathy corrected me. I was like out on the runway, and I'm like singing or whatever, and a group of guys just grabbed my ankles and like out from under me.
So
I just
crazy.
got pulled off, and then I'm laying on the ground, and then I'm like looking up at these dudes, and like I don't even remember how I got back up on stage. I
mean,
know I finished the show, but stuff like that happening, and that's one story.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's one I've been thinking about lately, because I really thought it happened in Italy.
But
it's being back in a band after, sorry to cut you off, I'm just
no.
finishing my thought, because
Yeah.
I have a tendency to like forget. But it was like, you know, being in that band, experiencing those kind of things, not having our own sound person, not having, you know, not having a crew of any kind or whatever, you know, constantly having to deal with sound men being like totally, you know, evil to us, like literally evil. Like we would walk in and they would pump up, you know, the Mentors, Finder, Feeler, Fucker, Forgetter, like as a special, you know, thing so we can load into a horrible sexist soundtrack. And it's like the whole thing that our reputations preceded us in a horrible way, like where they were just waiting, you know, like I remember these guys like talking about, and I just heard about this recently. They're like, oh yeah, it was really funny. Like we were working the Bikini Kill show, and we went into the bathrooms and we put all of the toilet seats up so women would fall into the toilets. And I'm just like, what the fuck? How much time do you have on your hands,
Right,
and how much hatred do you have in your heart? And you're so fucking bored.
Out of control.
It was just constant shit. So it's like, don't romanticize the 90s. And there were so few of us who were singing our necks out, and then other women were being mad at us because it's like we weren't doing it right. We were getting too much attention, and it was sticky, and it's to them.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, again with the pretty white girl thing, I was a young pretty white girl, and like I got a lot of mileage out of that, and so people did, rightfully so, call me on my privilege, and for that I'm totally grateful, but not for the teardowns that were just like for shit I can't change, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, now to go back out at 55 years old, have a crew that is like, I love the crew, our crew. They change, but like having this great crew that I feel totally supported by. And I know if I'm having a bad vocal night, Jade, if she's doing front of house, has me.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have to worry that I pissed off the sound guy and he's going to turn my vocals down in the middle, or the monitor guy just going to turn it down in the middle. So I'll lose my voice and not be able to sing tomorrow because I can't hear shit. I don't have to worry about that anymore because we have our own monitor person, you know? And having that, and then having our relationships be so different that backstage, I was saying earlier, like if I feel like I have to cry, I can be like, you guys, I got to cry. I got to tell you about something. And like, that's okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that in the 90s. We were so trying to defend ourselves from the outside world that we didn't look at each other as people and say, hey, I'm having a really fucking hard time here. Because we were all trying to battle off. And we were also very young and had horrible communication skills.
Yeah.
And self-hating. I was very self-hating and needed constant validation. Very annoying in the van, I'm sure. You know, obviously I talk fast. I talk a mile a minute. You know, it can be very annoying. But to be able to come back now and have the experience I wish I would have had then, and to know how lucky I am.
Yeah.
How fucking lucky I am to have had a career that lasted from when I was 19 and started being in bands to 55, and that I'm still playing and people still fucking show up.
It's fucking
and
incredible.
every time when people show up, I'm like, oh my, like we were playing in Latin America and people in Santiago, Chile are singing all the lyrics.
Yeah.
So
And it's like, how do you not totally like sob your way through the show? Like I'm so fucking grateful. And like a lot of times during the actual beginning or like for actually more towards the end of the 7 years of that band, it was like, I don't want to go on stage. You know, someone's going to fucking shoot me. Like, I don't want to go on stage. And now I'm like, I can't wait. Like I'm raring to go. And that's what's, I mean, it's awesome because usually you have the repetition compulsion and you go back and you do the same thing and you have the same result over and over. This is a very rare example of someone who got to repeat something and like actually have it work out this time.
Yeah. And do it different.
And we still
So
deal with
amazing.
some of the same problems.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
But
Yeah.
But it fills me with a lot of gratitude. Like I'm just struck like listening to you talk about this because, you know, we are a band that started touring. Like we were out as queer like from the jump in like 2014, 2015. When we
And
started
like
putting out music.
leftist, like fuck the cops type shit.
And we started touring shortly after that. I want to say like 2016. And like Kathleen, like we have never dealt with anything on the level of like what you have described. And I genuinely do believe that a lot of that is because of bands like yours who like paved the way and like really fought the fight for us. Like I just feel a lot of gratitude. Like we came up in a different situation because of bands like yours. Like it's similar like to how I feel with like my queer elders who were involved in activism in a way where their physical safety was like a lot more at risk. Like it's just very striking. Like the 90s was not that fucking long ago, you know, like, but touring in the 2010s was such a different experience for us. And so like, yeah, I just want to say
I'm so
like,
happy to hear that. I mean, I'm sure all of your lives have been fraught with all kinds of microaggressions and violence.
Yeah, the micros
it's not
the
been
micros
super,
are there.
It's not been super easy, but
of course.
that's wonderful for me to hear because I'm constantly getting asked the question of if it's better. And I'm like, well, it's fucking better for me, but I don't know for anybody else. And, you know, obviously I'm not going to be like, well, they told me. So everybody of, you know, your age group or whatever,
We're also
like
in
musical
pop,
genre.
too, so it's like you don't know, like I don't know if it's different and more of like punk or, you know.
I wonder
don't know.
like what I wonder. I think
I'm
we know some people who do who
But you
are
guys
in,
are
like
still DIY.
yeah.
Well, but I'm still thinking about
Ish.
the fact that at one point during this, you talked about like how you guys a lot of times wouldn't have dressing rooms at your show. I'm
Well,
trying to
yeah.
think about like the amount of
Fuck.
shows we've maybe played without a dressing room, like
Oh.
if any.
Oh, Katie, are you?
Have you dissociated?
I must have, yeah.
Did Men in Black?
did,
Men in
did,
Black?
did literally
machine?
almost like
How
every,
many do you think we've played without dressing rooms?
We started
At
getting
least, like,
dressing room
60.
privileges like 2 years ago.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Okay, so
we literally our
I
last
probably
tour
don't
that we
remember
went
a lot
on,
of the
we were
bad
Just
stuff that
happy to be here.
happened.
Just happy to be here. Just happy to be here.
We didn't have a dressing room at the beginning of last album cycle,
I was
Katie.
literally gonna say like maybe 2 or 3 shows.
You are crazy. We've been like in the bathroom foyer at venues. Like,
Oh yeah,
Or the van.
It's coming back to me.
or in our van.
Or
yeah.
in the
All
van,
the opening
changing in the
tours we've
van.
done. Are you kidding?
Yeah, it's
you
coming
don't
back
make
to me.
in the back of a van.
Oh,
Yeah.
helpful hint for this situation. If there's more than one bathroom for people to use at the venue,
Well, you get the poop bathroom?
no.
Oh.
We
had that.
in Bikini Kill, we traveled with a sign that said "out of order," and the first
Oh,
thing we
that's
would do
awesome.
is we would find the smallest bathroom in the venue, and we would write out of. I would tape up
Yes.
the out of order thing, so we would just go in there and take it over, and that would be our dressing room. And then when we left, we would take it off.
That's
That's
what we
amazing.
do.
We used to do
at
that.
gyms.
At gyms at hotels.
When we were touring,
during COVID times.
when we
didn't want
first
to
started
go to
doing
the
Out of
gym.
order, so you guys could go
Yeah.
on the treadmill.
Or like
Yeah.
it was like
Literally.
limit to like three guest
we would
capacity
we
or
would
something.
print fake like
You'd write limit the
Yeah,
three.
like,
we would be like,
literally.
the
I
gym
love
is
this.
currently
See,
at
DIY.
capacity.
You're not DIY-ish. This is like fully DIY.
We had it-
This is
we-
2024
We-
DIY.
the gym is currently at capacity. Sorry for any inconvenience. And then put tape that on the gym door
Yeah,
so that we
take
could
it
be in there
down
by
when we
ourselves.
left.
Oh, well.
Honestly, it was awesome.
Oh my god.
I wanted to ask you about touring, just like, you know, as a curiosity. Do you have like things now that because you've toured for so long, like things that you need on tour, or like just little things that you bring from home, or like things that you ask for from venues that like is there a
that are
through line?
helpful.
Yeah, things that are helpful.
Fold up yoga mat
Cool.
Hell yeah.
and my like strap.
I
my
do that
yoga
too.
strap.
Totally.
It's so important. I mean, I was gonna bring my because I have my yoga pants on. I was gonna bring my yoga bag and just be like, so I could
Dude.
talk about yoga. No, I'm terrible at it, and I do like the beginners. I've been doing Rodney Yee's beginner yoga
cool.
for like 20 years. Like
Hell
it's
yeah.
so
Hell
yeah,
embarrassing.
baby.
But whatever. No, the yoga mat is very important. The fold up yoga mat. Obviously my vocal warm up tape.
Mhm.
Cool.
Vocal spray, pineapple juice
Whoa.
for when it's dry.
Mm.
That's one of the things I have to have at every show is, and you want it like without, I like it without sugar, like so it's
Totally.
like organic pineapple juice. Toby's gotten into it too. It's really good if you have dry throat.
Oh.
Being in the air conditioning all the time, like
Yeah.
if you're on a summer tour and you're
I
constantly in
hate
the
it.
air
I
conditioning,
Summer
hate
tour
it.
is so gnarly.
because pineapple juice, it makes your salivary glands kind of go crazy, so you can get very spitty on
Hell
tour.
yeah.
But you got to have like a towel out there. But I have pineapple juice on the stage with me at all
Cool.
times now. I
That
started
is
doing
such a
it
shout.
when we came back on tour because we started a tour at Joshua Tree and it was dusty as hell.
Yeah.
And I was like on my phone, like looking up, like, what do you do if it's like really hot and dusty and like your throat's really dry? And some opera singer on the internet was like, pineapple juice, pineapple juice. So I started doing it. It's really helpful.
Wow.
And I doing the vocal warm up, obviously. And then I have a personal steamer, you know, that you get
Oh,
at
yeah.
CVS.
I have one of those.
Yeah.
And I use that at night, and I always gargle with salt water
Mm-hmm.
every night. So I'm always stealing like salt packets from restaurants or like
Cool, yeah.
even like whole salt shakers and putting them in my
Yeah, we
bag.
do
Yep.
Those are my main things
That's,
I
that's
need.
hot sauce for us with
Yeah.
stealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can't eat hot sauce on tour, which sucks because I'm a big I love spicy food, but
Uh-huh.
I
Too
can't
crazy.
eat spicy food on tour. I can't drink fizzy water on tour. So when I'm
Mm.
home, I'm like fizzy water, hot sauce. Like
Yeah, going
I'm doing
crazy.
those
You're
are like
partying.
the
Yeah.
kooky things that I do.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
no more like freebasing meth for me. I
I
just
know.
Just fizzy water if you've
just
been
give me
good.
some LaCroix. How do you pronounce it? LaCroix or LaCroix?
I say LaCroix.
LaCroix.
I kind of do say
LaCroix.
I say
I mean, I say
LaCroix.
both. I
You
say
do
both.
say LaCroix.
Can I have a LaCroix?
It's such a LA thing. I love
Would you say
it.
LaCroix?
No, just the whole.
Oh,
I didn't
the
drink
sparkling
it.
water? Oh, hell
No,
yeah.
I mean, we did sparkling water in New York. We're not heathens, but
Yeah, of course.
but I mean, it was just like Schweppes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
people,
Totally.
you need a fancy sparkling water here, and yoga.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that isn't Los Angeles, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yoga-
what
I mean, I was
is.
doing yoga before Los
Yeah.
Angeles. Just I was in on the secret, but
on the secret.
on the yoga secret, the big LA yoga secret. But no, it's so helpful or meditating even for like the 1 minute that I can
Yeah.
turn my brain off.
Yeah.
it's
Oh my
about
God.
1 minute for me, max.
I'm
Like,
better at meditating on tour just because of like the desperation I feel to like have.
For sure.
Totally
Mental
agree.
quiet,
I'm
yeah.
so much better. I come home and I fall apart because everything's about the show on tour.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so your time is so
Yeah.
locked into like, what are the things I can do
It's
to
so
make
helpful.
myself the best for the
Yeah.
show?
I know.
And it's about, you're
One
steaming
track
your
mind.
costume, you're,
Yeah.
like all the different things that you're doing. And then I
Yeah.
come home and I'm like, I need some kind of
Structure.
like,
I know.
yeah.
Life doesn't make sense anymore.
But also not talking.
Oh yeah.
I don't talk between
You're a
shows. I don't
rester.
talk to anybody.
Whoa.
After the show, I'll talk for like
really-
10 minutes and then I'm out.
It's like if I start because I have OCD
Yeah.
like about my voice, and it's almost like like I have to walk this very careful line where it's like sometimes my thoughts will tell me like that I need to be on vocal rest, or like I can't be singing, like I can't. Oh, you can't like sing this many shows in a row or something like that. But I've tried to learn and like believe my voice teacher that it's like if you're singing and talking with like good technique, like you're not gonna run out of voice. Like that's not a thing that is gonna happen for you. So it's like I have to walk this.
Oh, that's really interesting. Thanks for telling me that. That's great.
Yeah,
I love it.
actually, I have an amazing teacher in the Valley. If you ever, I mean, you probably, if you have your warm up tape, then you probably already have somebody that you love. But like, my voice teacher has been so amazing because he's really also like it's so
therapy.
psychological.
Yeah.
For you,
yeah.
all your blocks were like,
Psychological.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
not you have
Not
to,
real.
You have to balance.
Not
Obviously,
real,
like,
get
it's
over
toward
it.
it kicks your
Yeah.
ass, and like it really is an exhausting fucking thing.
Right.
Just no matter how you slice it, but it's like like balancing the kind of like care for your body and your health and really needing to take it seriously while also not like validating kind of underlying
Well,
beliefs that you
like-
might have about
I don't want to
It makes
do a
it
meet and
bad.
greet. I
Yeah.
don't want to.
can't do it.
I don't want to kiss babies. I don't want to shake hands.
No.
I was worried about getting sick
I would
before
get- well,
COVID.
Right.
Because
you
how
get-
many times do
right.
people come backstage
then
and
you
they're
get
like,
sick.
"You did
Yeah,
so
and then
great."
they're like,
"Oh, by the way, I've had the
I'm
flu
coming
all
down with
day."
something.
As they're hugging
I
you, they're like,
know.
they're like,
Sorry,
"Oh,
I'm getting over a cold.
I'm
or
getting
whatever.
over a
It's like,
cold,
It's
or
my worst nightmare.
I've
Worst
been in
nightmare.
bed all week with the flu. What a great time that I got to come out tonight." And you're just like,
Are you
What a great time.
motherfucking
You got to ruin
serious?
my
Yeah.
life.
I really want to ask you like the kind of stereotypical Gayotic question.
Sure.
The Gayotic question is, do you have like an early memory or experience that first like tipped you off to being bisexual? Like what was like a crush that you had, or okay, it seems like you already know.
I know, but it's like, see, I never talk about sex publicly because I'm like really a prude. Like I can feel myself like
We kind of
We're
are
very
too.
cute.
I'm
We're
a total prude.
anti-sex.
I'm such a prude, but it's like I did have a formative experience, and it's like when you have an actual genuine answer for a question, it's so hard not to just give it.
You can obfuscate it.
It can also be
You
like
can-
you
or
were
we can
watching
cut it.
TV and you saw somebody and you're like, oh,
Whoa,
maybe
interesting.
you know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
It can be as simple
I mean,
as
yeah,
that.
I mean, there was definitely one in high school that reinforced watching Liquid Sky, that movie, and I was like, oh, I gotta go be by myself for a few hours.
Wait, I think I just heard about this movie.
I was, oh my God. My dad was asleep on the couch and I was like watching it next to him and I was like, I really have to go
Is
be by
is
myself.
there like a woman in the movie who also plays a man, or like there's like something?
I haven't seen it in so long, but there's definitely these girlfriends.
Okay.
I might need to watch.
Yeah.
And be by myself for a few.
Yes, and be by yourself.
You
No,
never know.
I mean, I was very young. I was but somewhere between 6 and 8.
Okay.
And this little butch girl who was my dad's friend came to stay with us with his family. And there was this little butch girl who was sleeping in my room and she was on the bottom bunk.
Whoa.
And I was on the top bunk.
Whoa.
Not for long.
You can leave it at that.
Yeah,
That's huge.
we can cap that. That can be
Wow.
a period. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
No,
with
but
the bunk beds
but I
of
want to tell you what she
longing.
said though. It was so I still can't believe. I mean, like I was maybe 6 and she was 8. That was probably the scenario. I mean, we
Yeah.
were so little,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but her pickup line
Whoa.
was so good. She's like, "Do you know?" Like I hear this from the bottom bunk. Do you know what your parents do when they go to bed at night? And I was like, "No, I had no idea." And she's like, want to come down here and find out?
Oh,
I was like,
my God.
Oh my God.
I was like, I didn't know she was going to put a tampon in my butt. Like, I had no idea. Well, because when you're that age, you're like,
have no
You're
idea.
like, sex is like a
be
tampon.
right down.
Like, you think sex and tampons are related. Like, you have no clue.
Yeah.
And then we just dry humped, and it was awesome. And
Yeah.
I was very
It's the
little.
best.
And I was like, oh my God, what? Like, it's
Yeah.
like doing acid. Like, you just are changed.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
a different
yeah.
person. And
Now you're gonna
Yeah.
write that horny song.
Well, I think some people
they're like,
yeah,
rebel
like,
girl. I don't know her name. If you're watching this,
Wait, you
should
don't
get in
know?
touch.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have
that
no
girl's
idea
name.
Yeah, right?
what her name was.
Whoa.
I remember what she looked like. I don't remember her name. I don't know anything about her. I'm not in touch with my dad's side of the family or my dad anymore. So, like, I couldn't be like, oh,
Whoa.
who is that person?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, very young. But I
Yeah.
mean, what a cool kid.
Yeah,
Want to
that's
know?
Hell yeah.
Hey,
Hell yeah.
Swag from the jump.
my God.
But I feel like you could use that at later ages too.
Yeah, you
Like,
definitely,
you'd be
you
like, "Wanna
definitely
know?"
could.
Wanna
Jesus.
know?
yeah,
I don't know
that's
about-
major.
I don't. I feel like maybe there's a cap, like 18, 19.
I'm gonna use it. Let's see.
What are
I'll
you
use
gonna
it
do? You're gonna
tonight,
go-
and
you're
we'll
gonna go
see.
In your bunk bed?
At the bar.
Yeah,
At
in
the
my
bar.
bunk bed.
But it really is
Yeah,
I'll
you're
put
right.
a
so...
bunk bed in
At
my
yoga
girlfriend's
class?
house. Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
Your parents do?
You ever thought about what grown-ups do? I know we're so young, but
Oh, but it's so
No,
it
it's
is so
really
normal and so sweet. Like it's kind of been interesting, like asking people this question. It's like it is really normal to have an experience like that as a kid.
Yeah, everybody wants to dry hump.
Mhm.
it's
the best.
That's Tears for Fears, right?
Yeah, that's
yeah.
And you're not really thinking about it in terms of sexuality. Like after that experience, do you remember thinking about like sexuality or like being attracted to, or was it just like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I think then when Becky Downing and I were like, let's practice kissing, I was less nervous about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, Becky.
Because I'd had that experience.
Yeah.
She was so cute. But at the same time we were like, very much indoctrinated with sexist like shit. So like our favorite game to play was I was Aquaman's girlfriend and she was Superman's girlfriend. So we played Aquaman and Superman's girlfriends. Like,
Oh my God,
we
yeah.
didn't have the range of imagination to be like, I'm going to be Aquaman.
Yeah.
right.
You know what I mean? It was more like,
God.
I have to be Aquaman's girlfriend. But it was like, and then we would have these endless debates of like, can you breathe underwater because Aquaman can? Or does he have to breathe the oxygen into your mouth?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it was
Endlessly
this
more
whole thing of like,
complex.
how much power do I get from this man?
Yeah.
To,
God.
even in our play, we were doing
So
that
wild.
kind of stuff. But yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe I told somebody the bunk bed story.
That's
Listen,
so
if
But
you-
that
cute.
girl, I mean, seriously,
If
I
she-
I think about that and I'm like, wow. I
So
wish I could have been
cool.
that confident as a
Yeah,
kid.
that's-
Yeah.
I can't
I
imagine.
definitely wasn't.
No.
Especially like a young butch girl. Like that's
I was like, I hope
Very
girls
special.
don't see that I'm gay and try to kill me.
That's
That's
what
all I was thinking. Like,
That's what I would imagine. And that's why when I look back on it, I'm like so proud
yeah.
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
of that
Claire.
kid and also for giving me that experience and
Yeah.
for like not being afraid. And
But also gaydar is
saying
so
that.
real. It's like she probably
She knew
like,
some-
felt
people
the
know
I
most-
was just
something.
real cute.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just at 6. I was just
She
like,
couldn't resist.
Okay, we gotta
the
wrap it.
pedophile stuff. I know.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah,
joke.
that's all
I can't
good.
joke about it.
Do you want to
It's
do?
fun.
We've
do we
been
have-
doing this stupid thing called That's Frank.
That's rank or frank?
That's rank.
It's just where we rank things.
Like
it's
Allie will
totally
give us
unrelated.
like 4 things, and each of
Just
us is
a-
just gonna rank them.
It's-
That's it.
That sounds super fun.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all we do.
Oh man, your shoes match your pants like so good.
Oh, I'm chromitting.
Yeah, commitment.
Chromatic. commitment.
Chromatic is I guess I'm not really, but my lower half is when you
If
do
you
the
had
same
brown-
color.
It makes you taller.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
That
Yeah.
was this whole like yoga pant thing with the high thing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
Wait,
height.
is that a thing?
could
with
totally-
Vertical
like,
lines or whatever,
Dressing
or- yeah.
monochromatically. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's giving long torso. Girdle.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So we're ranking these band names Okay. For me, it's...
Do you mind making the font size
Yeah, it needs to be
100,000?
1,000
'Cause I'm
times
so
bigger.
blind. Okay, it's getting better. All right.
Okay.
The
who wants to
bastard
go
snuggle is
first?
insane.
Bastard Snuggle, number 1.
That's for you- okay.
Synapse Kisses, number 2. Noonday Out. I don't really like either of the other ones. Noonday Outcasts is 3rd. Bicentennial Autumns is 4. I just think Bicentennial Autumns, that's like too much of a mouthful. We need to be able to, you gotta kind of keep it short and snappy.
It sounds like an emo band. It's kind of I could see I see the vision of that the algorithm did when it made that. Okay, I'll go. I'm similar to you, Katie, but I do just have to put Bastard Snuggle last. I'm sorry.
Wow.
So
Whoa.
Synapse Kisses. Let's go. But see, the issue with Noonday Outcasts is Outcast,
Cast.
the band
I know.
Outcast.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So they need to, so that's my issue. Noonday is kind of a cool word. That's got something to it. So
Noonday Goons.
I'll put that second with the idea that maybe they would drop Outcasts and figure it out. Then Bicentennial Autumns and then Bastard Snuggle.
Noonday on its
honestly,
own is
good,
better.
Good effort on all fronts from the computer. Yeah. That's mine.
I don't know. I hate them all.
Yeah.
I hate them all.
Yeah.
I guess I'm more into. I like the idea of figuring out the genre that it is, and like I was like, Noonday Outcast is like these guys from Kansas who really like Outcast, but they're also like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, oh, but nobody, they're so obscure, nobody knows.
No one else
and like
will know.
everybody in the world knows who they are.
Yeah. They don't.
I
Think
feel like
people listen to
Bicentennial Autumn should be like Bicentennial Bitches, or like it should be like some like modern riot girl band called like Bicentennial Bitches, and they wear red, white, and blue, but it's like ironic.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Bicentennial's
Bastard
cool.
Snuggle, I can't. It's unless they use that bear, you know, Snuggles. Like, hi, I'm Snuggles. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, that guy. He's a fabric softener.
Yep.
You know who I mean?
He's the lead singer.
Hi, I'm Snuggles.
That guy. And if they were a band, what's that genre called where they sing like monsters?
Like Screamo.
Screamo. Okay, so they're Screamo. They're a Screamo band with 2 singers.
Uh-huh. And one
And
of them
one of the girls goes like, is like, you know, blah, 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 like whatever. I can't do Screamo because I don't want to hurt myself.
Yeah.
And then the other one is like,
Okay, yeah, I do the.
you know, like,
Yeah.
Okay.
like Snuggle.
I see the vision.
Like Snuggle. So
Yeah,
like
that's number
and that's
1.
their name. Bastard
That is number
and
1.
Snuggles.
Oh,
so it's not the Bastard Snuggle, it's
It's
Bastard and Snuggles.
Bastard and
That's
Snuggles.
kind of sick.
And that's their name, Bastard and Snuggles. And it's back and
Ooh.
forth between the super cutesy and the Screamo.
That's
Yeah.
a great idea. Good punch up.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would pick Synapse Kisses as my favorite because it just seems like those people are really weird.
It's cute.
But it's kind of slobbery.
It is.
It's
a bit.
kind of
getting
like
that.
it's kind of like tongue kissy. I don't know.
Kisses.
Synapse Kiss might
to
be
me,
better.
and it
Yeah.
feels very electricity.
Yeah.
I feel like they could be a
Synapses.
weird band.
Yeah,
I
they
guess
could
that's what
be.
I'm saying. I feel like they're probably the most interesting band.
For some
out
reason, I'm
there,
reading that as
besides
like
Bastard and
like the
Snuggles.
Blow that band.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you.
Not-
Yeah.
Not that Blow.
What do you think?
I think Synapse Kisses number 1. It just makes the most sense as an actual band name. The Bastard Snuggle. I hate the other 2.
Yeah, I hate the other 2.
I'd say Noonday Outcast. Bicentennial Autumns is like a band that dudes are in who are the worst people alive.
God, like math
You know what I mean?
like shitty math rock.
to me, it's like people who want to be like Bon Iver.
Oh, cool.
Like, and they, you know what I mean? They think they're
Oh, I
really,
like that.
really,
They're really
really
boring.
smart.
guys
yeah,
with
okay.
long hair and like big hats, and they're kind of
Noonday
just like,
Outcast is like a pop punk band. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? They're a pop punk band who thinks
they should
they're
just be called
really good.
Noonday.
Noonday
These
is-
fake
Yeah, I
fans.
agree with that.
Noonday's
That's
good.
good.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, that's it.
The Noonday is a Green Day cover band that only performs
At
in the
noon.
afternoon.
Yeah.
That's
at, like,
awesome.
At Sunday school events.
Yeah, hey, hell yeah.
Noonday.
Hell yeah. Wow.
That was
sick.
fun. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for playing.
Really
That's
nice.
great.
Thank you for your time.
Go, what camera am I in? Go buy the book. The link is here. It's out, right? Or it's gonna be out.
It's gonna be
depending
out.
on it's out.
You
It's
can
out.
buy it. You can buy it now.
You can buy it now. So go buy it now.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a Headgum podcast.